100% digital television signal coverage of our country, 23 radio services that cut across our entire language spectrum, a national, regional and international digital presence backed by the most experienced and top-notch broadcast professionals in the industry.
A very good evening to you.
The new look Kenya Broadcasting Corporation is truly ahead of the pack. Turn to the mother of broadcasting in Kenya for stories that resonate with our identity, our aspirations as a people united in purpose. Real stories of hard work, of passion, of creativity, of big dreams. Stories that cement our nationhood. Stories that bring us together as one. We take pride in our shared heritage and destiny. KBC. Informing, educating and entertaining Kenyans as one nation. KBC. Kenya's listening. Kenya's watching.
My name is Mohamud Ahmed Mohamud, the CEO of Kenya Deposit Insurance Corporation, popularly known as KDIC. KDIC encourages the depositors to continue doing business with licensed and regulated commercial banks and microfinance institutions. As part of the corporation's public awareness campaign, KDIC, in conjunction with its membership, the banks and the microfinance institution, recently developed KDIC stickers to be displayed in all the banking halls. Be sure to look out for KDIC stickers whenever you visit your bank.
KDIC, protecting your deposits.
It's Tuesday, the 20th July 2021. Happy Eid ul-Adha to our Muslim brothers and sisters. Good evening and welcome to the Prime Edition live from Broadcasting House right here in the capital city, Nairobi, Kenya.
And we have a comprehensive bulletin lined up for you that includes business and sports. Plus live in studio we have Elijah Keane, a conservationist, and of course we explore how best the Amboseli ecosystem could be protected from the dangerous human activities.
That's right, and as usual, you know we care about your views here on Prime Edition. Speak to us on our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. Our hashtag is Prime Edition. But first things first, top in this live broadcast. United in celebrations, Muslims mark Eid al-Adha, signaling the end of the Hajj pilgrimage in Mecca.
Will RAILA be sixth-time lucky? ODM party to name its 2022 presidential flag bearer as One Kenya Alliance principals meet over exit strategy from the National Super Alliance.
And is it a hustler's wave? Deputy President William Ruto says political class on the panic as ordinary Kenyans reclaim their place in politics. And a very warm welcome to you. Our sign language interpreter is Anne Wangeshi. My name is Mboya.
My name is Purity Museo. Thank you so much for joining us.
Straight to our top story. Kenyan Muslim faithful joined the world to mark Eid al-Adha, one of the official holidays celebrated in Islam, with calls for peaceful coexistence and sober politics ahead of the 2022 general poll.
And Eid al-Adha, Arabic fall festival of the sacrifice, honors the willingness of Abraham to sacrifice his son as an act of obedience to God's command.
Muslims around the country gathered in various mosques and playgrounds to mark this year's Eid al-Adha celebrations. At the Nairobi Sir Ali Club, the Muslim faithful held the celebrations in congregation for the first time in 2 years owing to the COVID-19 restriction.
Mwenye uwezo achinje na ile nyama aigawanye sehemu tatu. Sehemu ya kwanza yako na watu wako nyumbani, sehemu ya pili unatoa sadaka, unashare pamoja na maskini na mafakiri, na sehemu ya tatu unashare pamoja na majirani na marafiki hata ikiwa uko na uwezo.
Calls for political leaders to carry out peaceful campaigns ahead of the 2022 general elections were rife.
Siasa zikuwe za amani, kusiwe na fujo, watu wapige siasa zao kwa amani, kura kila mtu akoe na haki ya kuja kuomba kura yake.
The same script unfolding in Mombasa with the faithful gathering at Tononoka grounds for Eid prayers. In Mandera, Muslims gathered at Jamia Mosque for the Eid al-Adha prayers, with local leaders appealing for peaceful coexistence among area residents.
We ask all communities to see themselves as people of Mandera County, and by large to see them, the people living in Mandera East, to keep the peace that they've been keeping for the past years.
In Migori, the Muslim community celebrated the day at their homes and workplaces following the closure of the worship centers due to COVID-19 regulations in the 14 counties of the Lake region.
Ningependa kuomba serikali kama ingewezekana, kama igonjwa kidogo ingerudi chini, wangetufungulia misikiti ili tufanye ibada.
The Kiamaiko slaughterhouse in Nairobi iced up the day with tens and hundreds of livestock facing the butcher's knife. Omar Shelali from Direct Aid Kenya organization handing a herd of more than 3,000 sheep to the Muslims around the country.
Kaunti zote za nchi yetu ya Kenya wamefaidika kwa wanyama hao 3,000 na ambao watasherehekea katika ile sehemu zao.
Suleiman Yeri, Prime Edition.
To some politics, ODM party will unveil its presidential candidate next week after its National Executive Council meets to make a determination on those who expressed their interest. The meeting will determine whether the party's leader, Raila Odinga, will be in the ballot box. The move came even as Raila Odinga downplayed the issue, saying that his focus was to deliver the Building Bridges initiative that will address leadership challenges in the country. Timothy Kipnusu reports.
ODM party leader Raila Odinga was in Kilifi County drumming up support for the constitutional reforms through the Building Bridges initiative. Raila, who is on a second day tour, said the document is best bet yet for Kenyans, remaining optimistic that the Court of Appeal will rule in favor of the petition.
Ile BBI ambayo tulileta ilikuwa ni kujaribu kusawazisha maendeleo katika taifa letu, kumaliza ubaguzi ya kikabila katika taifa letu, na vile vile kumaliza ufukara na kuona kwamba kila Mkenya wako na haki.
This even as the ODM party is set to officially declare its presidential candidate next week after a National Executive Council meeting to resolve the paradox of whether Raila Odinga will be in the race for the presidency or not. Raila revealed that he is not in a hurry to announce his presidential bid until he ensures the BBI goes through.
Kwa hivyo sisi tuko na mpango kambambe. Jamaa wananiuliza mambo mengi, sema. Nasema mambo bado, wakati itakuja. Tulikuwa tumeleta mambo ya reggae, lakini reggae imeenda likizo.
Leaders who accompanied him endorsed Raila as the party's best bet, saying he has the political muscle to face off with Deputy President William Ruto in the next general election.
Sisi watu wa hapa Kilifi County, tukiwa ndani ya Dabaso, tunasema hii ni Dabaso Declaration, kwamba baba awe ndani ya kinyang'anyiro cha kuwa rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya mwaka 2022.
Sasa yule mtu atatusaidia. Kwanza Mwenyezi Mungu atatusaidia. Baada ya Mungu, yule mtu atakomboa nchi yetu, ambaye atakuja kusaidia sisi kama wananchi ya Kenya Tukiwa popote hapa Kenya, tuwe Migori, tuwe Busia, tuwe Kakamega, tuwe Mandera, Garissa, Kilifi, Mombasa, ni Raila Amolo.
Timothy Kipnusu for Prime Edition.
Let's stay with politics. Deputy President William Samoei Ruto now says the current panic in Kenya's political arena is as a result of his evident dedication and determination to empower ordinary Kenyans. While calling out a section of leaders for prioritizing constitution review over economic empowerment of citizenry, the Deputy President noted that some politicians have been profiting from people's poverty and unemployment. He made the remarks at the African Inland Church, Milimani, right here in Nairobi, Kenya.
We are changing the conversation. We are changing the politics of our nation away from ethnicity, away from changing the constitution so that us as leaders can share positions, share power, and do things that benefit us. The traditional politicians are having a problem. They don't know how to organize themselves. They've known to organize themselves around tribes, around power, around positions. Now we are telling them, no, we need to organize ourselves around the people, around the economy, around opportunity, and around empowerment.
However, from politics, only 29,000 households out of the then earmarked 600,000 in Nairobi's informal settlements received the government's COVID-19 cash transfer between April and November 2020. This is according to a report released by Human Rights Watch, which is now calling on the Auditor General and Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to do a forensic investigation and bring those culpable of mismanaging the resources to book. And as Ruth Wambui reports, the organization also wants the government to cushion more Kenyans from the harsh economic effects of the pandemic by offering relief on taxes.
According to a report by the Human Rights Watch, a 35 weekly installments cash transfer program to cushion the vulnerable households from the economic impact of COVID-19 did not reach those intended.
Level offices where some of their staff were beneficiaries, and we do know from the information given to us by the people who are enrolling, there was a trend where members of parliament were being given slots. The other was at the level of the governor's office. The other was some senior officials in the ministry.
The survey conducted between July 2020 and February 2021 in informal settlements in the capital city further showed major setbacks in implementing the program in informal settlements.
3 talks about the enjoyment of economic and social rights, but then the Constitution also guarantees public participation and principles of governance, and it's important for people to be involved and consulted in efforts which are actually meant to benefit them, so that they actually can benefit.
And there are others who didn't get, like me. I didn't get the cash transfer.
At the same time, the organization is urging the government to review the tax relief measures since many Kenyans are suffering.
For pay as you earn went back to the original, which is 30%, one of the highest levels of taxation. There's taxation on fuel. There's taxation on mobile data.
Some of the recommendations made by Human Rights Watch include recognition of the rights of everyone to social security, review of mechanism for implementing cash transfers, continuation of cash transfers program until the pandemic ends, and arrest of culprits of misappropriation of the funds. From the report, the big question remains: who pocketed money meant for the vulnerable families in the cash transfer? Reporting for Prime Edition, I'm Ruth Wambui.
Let's now get an update on the COVID-19 situation. 618 people have tested positive for the COVID-19 disease over the last 24 hours from 5,507 samples tested. The total number of infections now stands at 193,807. The new figure puts the country coronavirus positivity rate at 11.2%. In that period under review, 17 patients succumbed to the disease, all being late deaths, while 290 others recovered from the disease, bringing the total fatalities and recoveries to 3,800 and 183,211 respectively. Let's stay with health matters, and moving on, Kenyatta National Hospital has issued a public notice asking interested members of the public to identify and collect 418 unclaimed bodies at the hospital within the next 7 days. In the notice, the hospital says that it will seek authority to dispose of the bodies pursuant to Public Health Act after the expiry of 7 days.
Interested members of the public have only 7 days to identify and collect 418 unclaimed bodies lying at the Kenyatta National Hospital farewell home. The hospital has warned that after the lapse of the deadline, it will be forced to invoke the Public Health Act and seek authority to dispose the unclaimed bodies. According to KNH, the list of unclaimed bodies is available at the KNH farewell home and can also be accessed through the hospital's website. Under Cap 242 of the Public Health Act, an unclaimed body should be removed from a mortuary within 14 days period, or else it is disposed of in a mass grave after public officers obtain a court order. The public notice comes amid concern over increasing number of unclaimed bodies across Nairobi City's public health facilities and city mortuary. Ben Chumba, Prime Edition.
Elsewhere, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George MAGOHA has warned management of public universities against arbitrary reforms in their institutions without consulting relevant government bodies, in an apparent reference to a recent decision by the University of Nairobi to abolish courses and increase fees, a move that has been halted by the government. Professor MAGOHA advised institutions of higher learning to always consult widely and act for the best interest of the stakeholders. The Cabinet Secretary was speaking at the Odera Akango campus in Yala Town, Siaya County, when Moi University Council handed it over officially to Maseno University.
And we are saying transform now, but it can't be your way or the highway, because the university does not belong to you. And I'm addressing all the councils and all the vice chancellors. The university does not belong to you, Professor Nyabundi. It belongs to the state of Kenya. The university does not belong to you, Professor Kosgei. It belongs to the state of Kenya. So if you are going to transform it, please transform it, referring to Q if you are going to touch the legal instruments. The councils, the chairs of councils are here. You have no powers as chairs of councils. The president has not delegated that power to you. I have not delegated it to you. So you must consult.
We're going to take a short break. Don't go away. We'll be coming back shortly. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And we still have a live interview. Elijah Keane is in studio, and we just want to have a conversation about how best to protect the Amboseli ecosystem. There are currently human interruptions that are really, threatening the existence of wildlife right there.
They should join the conversation on the social media platforms, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
At KBC Channel 1 News, and the hashtag is Prime Edition.
Stay with us.
Mimi Daniel Toroitich Arab Moi naapa kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu kwa Jamhuri ya Kenya na kuitumikia kwa moyo wangu wote, na kwamba nitahifadhi, nitalinda na kuitetea katiba ya Kenya kwa mujibu wa sheria iliyowekwa. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu nisaidie.
Kupata skiza tune ya maisha, bonyeza *811*965#. Maisha ni mafupi, hivyo si vyema kumaliza muda mwingi katika malumbano. Hesabu baraka zako, wathamini rafiki zako na tabasamu ili udumishe amani. Bonyeza *811*965#. *811*965#.
Ni Mkenya na una feel hujai understand purpose yako na unatafuta direction. Hiyo nyimbo ndio the one song yenye inatu unite, na nashukuru Mungu juu kama rapper nilikaa chini nika unpack.
Nina track nina mistari Swahili jangili, mkono wa kushoto ni Mike Mbota na Bangili.
Kama ni kitu gani una feel kwamba kina kukwaza mpaka saa hizi wakati ulikuwa katika
Well, before we take you to the interactive session, EcoWatch, there's a feature here from 2020 from the year 2002 all the way to 2020. Kenya has lost 49.4 average annual deforestation of humid primary forest, making up 14% of its total tree cover loss in the same period. The total area of humid primary forest in Kenya decreased by 7.6% in this time period, according to Global Forest Watch. However, a battle is underway for the survival of Nyatike Mirema Forest, that's in Migori County. The locals and environmentalists are trying to restore the ecological balance. Purity Museo has this exclusive report from Nyatike sub-county, that's in Migori County.
Since 2004, the world has suffered a net loss of 37 million hectares of forest, according to data from the United Nations and Agriculture Organization. In the same period, 64.4 million hectares of trees were felled and planting of natural regeneration of 27.8 million hectares of new forest occurred. Despite the efforts to restore the forest, gross deforestation has not declined significantly. Closer home, Africa has lost 64 million hectares of forest between 1995 and 2005. According to the Kenya Forest Service, wood gathering drives much of this forest depletion.
The first thing when we came in with a lot of force, and we tried as much as possible to make sure that they don't continue the work they were doing, the illegal activity.
This is River Migori, a source of water for many people in Nyatike sub-county. The destruction of the Nyatike Mirema forest by community members put the river under threat. Erosion from overgrazed land is one cause.
This is a community hill or a community non-gazetted community forest land. It's a public land under the managed by the Kenya Forest Services, and it is land that has been under degradation for quite some time. In the 60s, 70s, it was when there was still the county council. It was being managed by the county council, and it was a source of livelihood for many people around here. It was housing the water department, the Catholic Center, the sheep and goat station, and a lot of activity with gold mining was around here.
In the last 2 years, a forest landscape restoration project by the government and its supporting partners, which gives communities confidence that they would benefit from their efforts in restoring the forest, is transforming lives.
We discovered that this area already has got rich natural regrowth or regeneration with indigenous trees, and so we kind of taught the community forest association that we don't have to always think of planting exotic trees, but we can do enrichment planting where we find there's predominantly one type of natural tree growing, then we bring others.
Enrichment planting.
The forest restoration training is shared to community members who share common interest.
We train them how to establish the nurseries, how they graft mangoes, some of the different varieties, you see, and we have also managed to go to the institution and train them because we have already been trained, and we have also gone to the schools and trained and opened the school environmental clubs.
The people now appreciating how the environment is improving the ecosystem. The attitude of the people reason for change. The hills are gradually turning back to healthy, productive lands once again.
The river is now moving as usual because we have restored this place. Now people are not coming here and doing distractions.
People are leading themselves to prosperity and on to economic development. Forest conservation in parts of MIGORI County translates to flowing streams which recharge rivers such as the MIGORI River, a permanent river which initially used to completely dry up during dry seasons. Purity Museo, Prime Edition, MIGORI County.
Of course, the first part of that feature, Regreening Migori, ran last week on Tuesday. Well, as we had promised, Elijah King, a conservationist, is live in studio. Purity is with him on the other side of the studio. They're going to discuss about the Amboseli ecosystem, and I believe they'll touch also on the human-wildlife conflict. So I'll hand it over to Purity Museo on the other side of the studio.
That's right, Tom. Thank you so much for staying with us. This is Echo Watch, and of course, joining us live is Elijah King, a conservationist, and at the same time is the founder of one of the largest ranches at the Amboseli. Maybe you can just introduce, tell us what this ranch is all about, before we get straight to our discussion about the ecosystem.
Thank you, Purity. My name's Elijah King Naini. I'm the treasurer for a group ranch called Orguluri Olala Rashid Group Ranch, the biggest group ranch in Kenya, as you said, that is under subdivision, and we deal with land management, conservation, and tourism. Yes.
And talking of conservation and tourism, let's talk about, because the ranch is located at the Amboseli ecosystem. So let's first talk about why we need to have conversations about the Amboseli ecosystem. Of what importance is it for the country?
I can say that the Amboseli National Park has been carved out of the group ranch, which you can just call it OGR. And I can tell you that for the survival of the Amboseli National Park, you have to ensure that you create conservancies, which we have created. Like, for instance, in Rugului Group Ranch, we have created 4 conservancies that are surrounding the parks, the ones that are creating also the migratory corridors to Tanzania, through to Selenkei Group Ranch into the Savo. And I can tell you, generally, when you talk about Amboseli ecosystem, which harbors more than 20 conservancies, with an accumulated acreage of 1.3 million acres. You cannot have wildlife survival if we do not ensure that we enhance sustainability of these conservancies. Yes.
I know it's a coexistence between the wildlife and communities around the Amboseli. Maybe do we have statistics in regard to the number and the kinds of animals that are mostly found at the Amboseli?
I can tell you that Amboseli boasts of having the largest herds of elephants. In Amboseli right now, we boast of having 1,800 herds of elephant. You can remember that Amboseli was hosting the oldest elephant in the planet. That God rest his soul in peace. He passed away a few months ago. So, but I can tell you that in Amboseli you will find more than 400 bird species. You will find elephants, the big five, you name it. You will find any animal that you will want to in Amboseli. So, and most of these animals, they graze in the community lands, and this is what we're saying, that we need to find a sustainable livelihood for the people within these communities, and it is high time that the government, through KWS, international conservation organization, and all the agents, to adequately compensate these families that have set huge tracts of land for conservation.
And we'll be talking about that because I understand there are some subdivisions of the land ongoing right now.
Yeah.
But let's just stay with the ecosystem. Of course, you said it has more than 20, conservancies, and we are talking about wildlife and the elephants. So the importance of wildlife as far as forest conservation is concerned, because the government is looking at achieving the 10% forest cover. You can elaborate on that.
Well, I can tell you that in Amboseli, we boast Amboseli Ecosystem Management Plan that was recently launched. Is the only management plan that has been gazetted in the country, and I can tell you that this management plan has given guidelines on how we can coexist with wildlife, and how we can set things rolling into the future. And we have a 10-year management plan that we think that when we partner with government and these other agencies, we can achieve that.
Let's talk about the challenge right now. First, you said it's a gazetted land, but then why are we seeing, the conflict? What is the gap? You talked about compensation of these families. So what exactly is the problem for this ecosystem that people have to come and subdivide the land there, and of course affect the existence of the animals?
There is the fact that we cannot stop members of these group ranges to subdivide the land, and I think it has to come out very clearly that the conflict that has always been there between the conservation agents, these landowners, and interested business people who are coming to invest in these lands, we need to categorically clarify that we cannot stop the subdivision of land, because this land belongs to these people. And for instance, in Orgulu Leadership Group Ranch, we have a management plan that categorize the areas. We have conservation areas, migratory areas, agricultural areas, habitat areas. So it's clearly defined. But now for group ranches like Kimana Group Ranch, which was subdivided haphazardly without any plan, we have agents that are coming to create conservancies, and at times you find that possibly there is a landowner who do not want to be included in the conservancy. So I think it is just important that we give people the right to develop their land, but at the same time we need to enhance the creation of conservancies like what we have done in Orgulwi Group Ranch, that is owned virtually, so that nobody comes in to sell these pieces of land, but we collectively invest for the future. And that is what I was saying, that we need government and agencies to come and invest in this land, because we have set the land, and I can tell you without an iota of doubt that we have given Amboseli National Park survival, because without the creation of these conservancies, after the subdivision, Amboseli National Park was going to collapse in a few years. But right now, these conservancies are double the size of the national park, and at the same time we have allowed wildlife to graze in our lands, and this is what we are saying: the paradigm shift must change. It has we have to see that these people are benefiting out of this land they are giving out, and this is what we are saying, that the management of these conservancies should not be happening in Karen and these big cities like London. This has to come to the people on the ground.
Allow me to ask you this question. Is it possible to have communities coexisting with wildlife? And why I'm asking this is because cultivation of land is one of the biggest threats to the wildlife, and of course most of them are living purely in the forest. So is that possible, or are you maybe recommending that maybe these communities are compensated and leave this particular land?
Yes, what we are saying is that we need to have a defined plan for management use of our land. So we need to create, and that is what we have done, land that is basically purely for conservation. No one is allowed to do any kind of agriculture. We have lands that are set aside for habitants and agricultural activities, and I can tell you, like, the coexistence between the Maasai people within the Amboseli community has been good, and I can tell you that we have employed 500 guards, which we call them game scout, to protect the wildlife, and for the past 5 years we have managed to get zero poaching. So, and this is a tremendous change from the past. So I can tell you, when we employ, and we employ the community, and we ensure that this conservation is community driven, and that one has to come out very clearly, that this conservation has to be community driven, unlike before when they used to be driven from cities abroad. So it has to be from the people on the ground, and this is what we're saying. If for conservation and wildlife to survive in the Amboseli ecosystem, then we have to ensure that we involve the common man on the ground.
And as this happens, clearly the critical corridors for the elephants have been destroyed. So how dangerous is the ongoing subdivision of land by the communities? How what threat is it posing to the ecosystem?
It really goes without a say that it's a subdivision of land is a threat to conservation, but at the same time we cannot stop people from subdividing their own land, and this is why we are persuaded that they give 40% of their land for conservation, and this is what I was saying, that this land is owned virtually, but they can spend the other 60% to do the economic activities, but at the same time, for this 40% that we're giving out, we have to get compensation adequately. Like for instance, in Amboseli, the KWS has collects more than $1 billion shillings, and we need a certain percentage of that money to go to the people there, because if we don't give this land to protect the wildlife, then I can give you a guarantee that Amboseli National Park will collapse. Yes.
And you're talking about the Amboseli National Park collapsing, but we are looking at, precious wildlife that is there. Maybe what does this mean economically, because it's also a tourist attraction for the country?
We can use these conservancies positively to develop, and you have seen, as you have earlier mentioned, that we have created these conservancies to develop tourism-related activities that are going to and I can give you an example of Kiterwa and Kitenden, which we have invested. We have investors that are sending money directly to the people in their own accounts for the land that I've created for conservation. So, and for survival of these conservancies, it is also important that the county government to enact an act that is going to help mitigate the wildlife, mitigate climate change, because we can see that climate change is becoming a major threat across all the pastoralist communities, and these Amboseli National Conservancies are among the areas that are under threat. So for county government can create this, they can enact this act so that we can attract global funding to help mitigate climate change.
As a conservationist,
yes.
How best, because we want to protect the wildlife at the Amboseli ecosystem. So how best can these animals be protected, or the wildlife be protected, and how do we as a country, what do we need to do to secure the Amboseli ecosystem?
We need to attract a global fund that is going to help protect Amboseli ecosystem. As I said, we have a migratory corridor that comes through Tanzania. It goes through to the Tsavo National Park. We have created these migratory areas for wildlife, and all this land belongs to the people. So it's about time that we need to create this fund that will help on developing these conservancies for the future. For us to be able to boast of having a well-managed conservancies in the country, we need to enact a fund that is going to help do that.
And how about forest conservation, because that is really critical?
Yes.
As far as protecting the wildlife is concerned? Are there efforts, are there activities that are ongoing, maybe led by conservationists like you at the Amboseli?
I can say that in Amboseli, like, we have a conservationist like Dr. Weston, who came up with a strategy on how to ensure that the growth of forest within the Amboseli, and we just realized that by fencing, doing electric fence within the ecosystem, in a few years the trees and forest cover grows, And we've been doing that in Amboseli, and we're seeing that part of the rebirth of forest within the national park and within the coexistence. And also I can tell you that we have created systems of operations for security, and you will not find people burning charcoal within the ecosystem, because we have 500 guards equipped with motor vehicles, binoculars, and all manner of security gadgets to protect the environment. So I can tell you that Amboseli National Park and the Amboseli ecosystem in general is under protection. Yes.
And allow me to ask you this last question. Of course, there are efforts by the country to ensure that the forest cover is at least, taken to up to 10%, and there are reports of some species of wildlife going into extinction because the forest has been destroyed. We have examples of some forests in the country. Would you say that we can pride ourselves with the Amboseli ecosystem, that maybe the wildlife is taken care of, and when we look at the ecosystem, how would you rate the Amboseli ecosystem?
I can say that there are challenges, but I can tell you that within the Amboseli ecosystem, we have put in place all mechanisms to ensure that we maintain the 10% forest cover, and through security and through fencing, electric fencing of certain areas that the trees have been destroyed by the elephants. I can tell you that we have improved for the better. Yes.
Thank you so much, Elijah King, for making time for us.
My pleasure.
This Tuesday night, we highly appreciate.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and that's all the time we had for this conversation. Many thanks for staying with us. We take another break. When we return, Richard Munga is coming up with the day's sports. Stay with us.
My name is Mohamud Ahmed Mohamud, the CEO of Kenya Deposit Insurance Corporation, popularly known as KDIC. KDIC encourages the depositors to continue doing business with licensed and regulated commercial banks and microfinance institutions. As part of the corporation's public awareness campaign, KDIC, in conjunction with its membership, the banks and the microfinance institution, recently developed KDIC stickers to be displayed in all the banking halls. Be sure to look out for KDIC stickers whenever you visit your bank.
KDIC, protecting your deposits.
Equity has scaled up operations in the Democratic Republic of Congo through the recently unveiled Equity BCDC. To see how Equity is facilitating investment in service, trade, mining and farming in this vast country, watch KBC on Wednesday 21st at 6:45 p.m.
What does this number mean to you? A pack leader? A winner? Or just a number? To us, it means freshness, boldness, vibrancy and heritage. That's why at KBC Channel 1, we make it easier for you to pop up your family entertainment to a fresh, exciting and colorful bouquet.
Oh, good evening. Thank you for joining us for tonight's edition of KBC Sports with me, Richard Munga. Now, on to a top story tonight, whereby former World Rugby Series top scorer Collins Injera says the Kenya 7 squad is 90% ready for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, as they have already adjusted to the weather in Japan thanks to the pre-training camp in Kurume. The Kenya 7's team will play against South Africa, USA and Ireland in Pool C of the postponed games that are set to begin on Friday. The Rugby Sevens fixtures begin on Monday.
Swinger Collins Injera believes the training camp in Kurume has helped the players adjust to the weather in Japan and are ready for the 2020 Olympic Games, which begin this Friday in Japan. Injera, one of the 4 players competing at the Olympics for the second time, says that the experience gained in Rio 5 years ago will be vital despite losing all their group matches against New Zealand, Great Britain and Japan. Kenya will play in Group C against South Africa, USA and Ireland and begin their gold medal hunt against the United States on Monday 26th July before playing South Africa in their second group game the same day. They will end their group campaign against Ireland the following day with the hope of moving to the knockout round. The Kenya Sevens team was the second to leave Kurume for Tokyo today after the national volleyball team Malkia strikers who left yesterday. Meanwhile, two-time Africa high jump champion Matthew Sawe is hoping to make amends at the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games after missing out on a chance to put his best at the 2019 World Athletics Championship due to injury. The 33-year-old will be eyeing a new personal best to improve on the current mark of 2.30 meters. Sawe secured his place at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics through the world rankings on June 29th, where he placed 24th by the close of the qualification window. Boasting a wealth of experience from major events over the years, Sawe says he is keen to leave a mark at the largest and prestigious sporting event, despite being out of competitive action for a long spell. Sawe and Olympic javelin silver medalist Julius Yego are the only field events athletes in Team Kenya. Finally, Kenya beach volleyball team coach Sami Mulinge hopes that his team will cope with the weather conditions in Japan as they continued with their training sessions that will end on the 25th of July, a day before playing their first Olympics encounter. The team trained in Mombasa before their departure, but the high humidity in Japan has turned out to be a different story, forcing the ladies to revert to early morning trainings to cope with the situation. The team has been training once a day for approximately 45 minutes. Kenya will play Brazil in their opening match on Monday, then face United States in their second match on Thursday. They will end their Group D matches against Latvia on Saturday, 31st July.
With a couple of cases, COVID-19 positive cases recorded in the Olympic Village, organizers of the event, of course, are saying that they cannot rule out the possibility of cancelling the games last minute. We sure do hope that will not happen, as we need to cheer on our Kenyan athletes as they seek glory in Tokyo, Japan. Now, to other matters, Women in Sports Association has called on the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, NOC, to use sports as a tool to advocate for gender equality in a bid to ensure adequate representation of women in managerial positions. This comes a few days after Sports Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Amina Mohammed constituted a 9-member ministerial committee on gender welfare in sports.
A few days after Sports Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Amina Mohammed constituted a 9-member ministerial committee on gender welfare in sports, Women in Sports Association has endorsed the move with calls for an increase of women participation in sports. The association has pledged to offer training to women on the need of laying a foundation of policies that will be used to tackle gender issues.
That all sports federations reserve the 1/3 gender rule for women in leadership positions. I would ask this committee that has been appointed to make it one of their recommendations to the Cabinet Secretary of Sports that 1/3 gender rule is not being observed, and can it be made mandatory.
We also need to have acknowledgement of women in sports leadership, okay, and with the stand that the CS has taken, we believe going forward this will be achieved.
Some spaces should be left, especially where they do not want to be competitive, and then with time they will take up those elective positions, but women must be present and they're ready. So there is no one solution, but it's making them, how are we going to make them be more represented.
A few weeks ago, there were growing concerns over the treatment of women in sports, with the basketball fraternity alleging of mistreatment as well as sexual harassment.
A lot of activation, a lot of women coming together like we did today, talking about it more openly. Let the girls also understand that it is because of their talents that they get to play in the sports, not because they have something to give so that they can feel like they need to represent themselves in sports.
We've gone to Olympics just now, the volleyball team, Malkia strikers, and we hope that with time the preparations of the teams will include serious engagement of sports psychologists so that we can take the gold.
The Women in Sports Association has further said it will create awareness on the need of empowering women to take up leadership positions in different federations within the country. Frederick Mwoki for Prime Edition.
Meanwhile, FKF Premier League leaders Tusker FC once again dropped points after being held to a barren draw by Mathare United in one of the 3 matches played today. Tusker failed to impress as they did against the FC Leopards when they won 2-0 4 days ago, missing out on a chance to stretch their lead at the top of the table to 9 points. The draw now leaves them 7 points above second place KCB, who have 2 matches at hand. Their opponents, Mathare, remain 17 on the table with just 15 points. In other matches played today, Bandari FC came from 2 goals down to draw 2-2 with Bidco United, while FC Leopards fell 3-2 to Western Stima. Well, that indeed does it for sports tonight. Always remember that for all the stories that we have for you tonight and all the other nights, and as well as other sports updates, remember to visit our official YouTube page, that is KBC Sport, for all that. Of course, Tom Mboya and Purity Museo, I saw you grinning, or rather you're quite impressed in the report about gender equality in sports. So maybe anything you can comment on that?
I'll talk about equity, because when you talk about equality, there are so many things to look out for.
That is indeed true. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And now with the association, maybe we hope that maybe we can set in motion the process of ensuring, well, equity, as Purity says it. Maybe Tom, you have.
I should be in that committee.
You should be in that committee. Okay.
Yeah, but
I would support you.
Of course.
You know that. Thanks, Richard.
Yeah, surely we're going to be updating the viewers, and of course Kenya is watching, so any latest step made in regard to that, we shall be updating you. But for sports tonight, that's it really.
That's it.
Yeah.
Eid?
It's Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak.
Yes, but you can also say Eid to all our Muslim brothers and sisters. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for watching Prime Edition this Tuesday night. It's been a great pleasure having you company. I'm Purity Museo, and Wangeshi has been assigned language interpreter tonight. Until next week on Monday and Tuesday, bye-bye.
I knew you'd say that. Thank you. Thank you. My name is Mboya. Good night. Tuesday and Monday.
Asante sana mpenzi mtazamaji, mahali popote unanitazama. Kwa majina najulikana kama Mutumishi. Asante Yesu. Ukiniita Mr. Quickbit tutakuwa tuko sambamba. Kumbuka hapa kwenye Quickbit tuko na bidhaa chungu mzima. Yaani bidhaa mapochopocho my friend. Kwa sababu yako wewe mtazamaji, kuanzia kwa nduthi, tuko na TV, kitchen combination